Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook right here on TGI Sports Talk. We want to welcome everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching us today. All the groups that allow us to share this later, you can see them scrolling continuously. Some of them are our favorite ones. There's hundreds that let us share the show, and we appreciate that. And Jack is a little tardy this morning, so I hope he's okay. Jack actually called me, and I'm going to resend him the link. Not sure what's up. Should we call Jack live on the air? Is that what we should do now? Hopefully he's texting me or something. Hang on one second. We'll try to get to him. We're going to talk some football. The NFL with a big kickoff yesterday. Some exciting games. Some, we don't want to have overreactions, right? But there was a lot of exciting stuff yesterday. Hang on one second. We don't want to overact, but last night's game kind of topped off a great Sunday. Some interesting things in football. Some maybe expected, some not. Sorry, I'm just a little worried about Jack. Hope he's okay. I just text him. We'll let you know what's going on here in a second, if that's appropriate. Still got a little music playing here. So anyway, sorry for the slow start to the show here, but good morning to everybody out there. Danny Fuller, good morning. Sorry, he's just trying to check on Jack. So we got a little slow start this morning. Week one, it's okay to react. LOL, not over though. No, I get it. Listen, there's a lot of stuff to react to. We had our own kind of a podcast group chat last night. There were some things you would think some crazy stuff was going on. I will tell you some things that I thought the Bills were great last night. I thought the Ravens were great last night. Exciting game. The Bills come from 15 points down with 4 minutes left. First time that's ever happened in the history of the NFL in week one. We've seen some great comebacks in the history of the NFL, obviously. Some ugliness, if you will, in that game. And it goes both ways. I mean, Lamar Jackson pushes a fan, but the fan, a Buffalo fan by all accounts, tapped him and another player on the top of the helmet. Just first of all, fans, don't touch players. You pay to get in. You don't get to do whatever you want. And Lamar Jackson, he's waiting in the studio. I think Jack might have probably not. Hold on one second. Probably not. Resend. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I apologize. In email. Technical difficulties, guys. Sometimes these things happen. Let me get Jack the right link here. And some of us older folks sometimes have some issues with this stuff. Jack will be here in a second, so he's okay. Just bear with me 1 second while I get it to him. And we should see Jack in just a few minutes. So interesting stuff for me. And again, we'll get into this with Jack. I don't want to go too deep into it. We can get some of your thoughts. In the meantime, we'll dive into the Bills. Ravens game. Colts look a whole lot better than you thought they would. We know the Dolphins were going to be a mess. At least I thought so. Danny Dimes looked pretty good in his debut. We'll see how good or how much that lasts. Steelers and Jets, exciting football game. Aaron Rodgers played his best football in some time. They win with a 60-yard field goal with about a minute left as well. The Giants looked terrible on offense. Russell Wilson was ridiculously bad in my mind. And Brian Dable's already saying, well, we'll talk about the quarterback later this week. The Packers look good and the Lions did not. What else? Rams with a nice win over the Texans, I thought. Patriots struggled. I thought they'd win yesterday. I really did. The defense looked terrible on the first drive, stiffened a bit. were really good against the run, but the Patriots offense, they didn't protect the quarterback again. Drake May doesn't take care of the football. Just not a good debut for the Patriots. I expect things to get better there. What else? We might get into a little bit of baseball as the Dodgers snap a 5-game losing streak. We didn't get a chance to talk about Davey Johnson yesterday. Maybe Jack would like to talk about that a little bit. And maybe we'll get into the Phillies Karen situation. We still don't know who she is. I've seen her identified 3 times as the wrong person. Social media is so dangerous today. Good morning, Dave Gayette. How are you, my friend? Lions played flatter. Good morning, Jeremy, by the way. Lions played flatter than Travis Kelce's fiance. I hope you got it. If not, we may be without Jack this morning. I don't know what's going on. I guess I don't have a comment there. I think she got a good Boucher. I don't know. Something's going on there. Pats lost game. I thought they would win. They should win now, maybe, I think. Again, Danny, I know you have higher hopes. I shouldn't say high hopes. I have high hopes for this team. 9 wins is high hopes right now. If this team is going to win 9 games-ish, and be a playoff contender, these are the games you got to win. The Raiders at home. Are the Raiders better? Probably. They really didn't have an answer for Brock Bauer. I was sure they wouldn't. The secondary still has some issues. They're banged up as well. No excuses. Injuries are not excuses for losing. Next man has to step up. Didn't really have an answer for Bauer. Seems like they couldn't get off the field on 4th down a lot of times. But, the defense played okay after that first drive. The Raiders scored another touchdown out of very short field when the Patriots turned the ball over on interception. So, again, what are you going to get excited about there? Still no Jack, so I don't know what his deal is today. Unless I'm in the wrong place. You know what it is? I'm in the wrong place, guys. Oh, my God. You know what? Everybody, I'm going to restart this. I apologize. Let me send Jack. Actually, I just sent Jack this invite. I got to change the title. I got to change everything on this before we go live. This says, how come this says weekend update? Wait, something's a little screwy here. How did I do this? Good morning. Good morning, Rick. How are you? I'm not sure how to get Jack in here. I just sent him the right link. Oh, that's probably because that's what I put in and I set it up under the wrong freaking thing. I'm not sure how we're going to get Jack in here. So remove pale. What does that mean, Jeremy? Casual people pale. Oh, casual people want to blame coaching, but I looked at the players didn't execute the plays in your opinion. You're talking about the Lions. I logged into the new link. I'm waiting to be brought in. I don't see you, Jack. Anyway, we're having some technical difficulties with Jack. You're not here. Don't see you. Anyway, the major problem here is Keith made a misjudgment on how this should be titled. I'm gonna have to change this before I do any sharing, obviously. Oh my God, what a jerk I am. Anyway, this isn't MLB update, which I don't know how many of you can see that. I'll have to change it before I do any sharing. We got a nice show. We got a good crowd today, too, without Jack. What's going on with that? How come I don't see Jack in here? I don't get it. I'm going to invite him one more time, I guess. Try one more time. Boy, we got a show to do here, Jack. Not his fault. This is actually my fault. I'm going to try one more time with Mr. Jack, and then we're going to have to give it up because we got to talk some football. We got a lot to talk about. Tell me about your team, guys. Put some comments up, and I'll come back to them in just a second, and then we'll get to Jack in a second as well. I'm not sure what's going on here with this. Yeah, bear with me. I apologize. Great radio, though, right? So we're going to be a little short today. What can we do? Anyway, what else you guys got here for me? Hold on. Give me some comments. That helps. Hello, Linda. Good to have you with us. We're having some technical difficulties. We're going back to the old Mac and Jack days. Oh, God. I hate it when these things happen, right? It really gets tough. There's Michael Gott with us this morning. Good to have you with us. Good to have Michael back from the UK, by the way. He was having some trouble commenting on the games. And Jack Hirsch will hopefully be in with us in a second. This is my screw up, I'm pretty sure. At least the original part. I don't know what's going on now. Retirement is kicking in, right? Jesus Christ. It's funny. I set this show up yesterday morning so I wouldn't do it last night if I might have had a couple of brewskis while watching the game. So, yesterday Lions game. Yeah, I didn't see a lot of Lions game. It was hard. We were at a function for a friend of ours who three of us been going to watching football for about 25 years, and he passed away a few weeks ago. Joe the Pro Morendo, everybody in Amsterdam, New York knows, and Jesus, upstate New York, even outside of New York seems to know the Pro. So they had a little get together at a spot we don't normally go to. So it was a little harder watching the games. They were all on, but they were kind of scattered around. Mojo, yeah. Jeremy says, "See what happens when you retire." I know. Have Jack get his grandson to help him. The original problem I gave Jack was me. I set this up in the wrong studio. There he is. Jack Hirsch joins us. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on, but I'm hitting these links. I'm on my backup system or whatever. I don't know what went wrong. Is this a new link or what?
Now the original, it is, because the original issue is mine. I set this up in a different studio with our show in it. So that's
you do mirror the New England Patriots. There's a little bit of disorganization here for all the people who think this show is off to a great start. I mean, we might be a year away, Keith.
We had a huge crowd until you showed up, though, Jack. I don't know what happened here. Things kind of were going downhill. Just kidding. I liked the fact that you used disorganization instead of dissent with the Patriots. I was actually talking about that game and the Giants and the great game last night. I haven't even gotten to, so we can dive into all of that, and we'll try to fix our problems as we go along. I'm going to have to do some renaming of this before I share it because it says TGI Sports Talks MLB update, but then the rest of it talks about Jack and Keith's weekend update. So.
I actually watched very little of the Yankee game, just a tiny bit, because it's football Sunday. So
yeah.
We had a commercial during the Jet game. I would be tuning to the Giant game, but when we had a double commercial, I would quickly go to the Yankee game for batter. And when they had that 4-3 lead in the 8th inning and Devin Williams came in, for the 1 inning of middle relief, even hearing Michael Kay saying, well, the Yankee fans might be a little nervous here with Devin Williams coming in, but he did the job. They got the win. Good.
I'd have been nervous. And just to touch on that, since you're talking about it, we probably won't get into a lot of baseball.
No.
That's a big series win for the Yankees. Winning 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays because they struggle with them all year. They get to within 2 of first place, and they're pretty solid in the wild card spot now. So good for the Yankees finally finally beating somebody that they're going to see potentially in October.
Well, for New York fans, it was more of the same. The Jets failing to close out a game once again. I don't want to hear about moral victories. There's no moral victory. Don't tell me there's anything good to take out of that game. And you're going to say, whoa, Justin Fields, he looked good, this and that. Yeah, and he did. I'll give him a good grade. Good game unbalanced by Justin Fields. He did a lot of good things. But the bottom line is, at the end of the game, when they needed that drive to get into field goal range, they didn't get it done once again.
That's a great
story. Nothing different from what Aaron Rodgers went through last year. You want to know something, Keith? There's such a thin line in people's perception. It comes down to as little as one kick. If Pittsburgh doesn't make a 60-yard field goal, a massive field goal, people are going to be, the headline's going to be Jets ruin Rodgers' return. And the Jets are going to be hailed, and Justin Fields is going to be hailed, just like last year when the Jets missed kicks at the end of the game. They lose a couple of games because of missed kicks. And then it makes all the difference. And you know it better than anyone when Tom Brady returned to New England and he's going against Bill Belichick. If that last field goal attempt, doesn't hit the upright, Belichick wins the game.
Right.
And we're going to be talking about it much differently. Belichick, beats Brady, blah, blah, blah.
I can understand your vitriol, and I'm not a big moral victory guy either. I'm really not. And quite frankly, I thought this game kind of went backwards the way that it might have. The Jets offense, except in crunch time, did play pretty well. They ran the ball very well. Hall had a nice game. They get beat. Listen, their defense has got to be better than that. I said yesterday they were elite. I should have said playoff. I did correct it and say playoff ready. That wasn't a playoff ready defense yesterday. Aaron Rodgers can't shred you for 4 touchdowns. And I mean, at the end of the day, they played well enough to win. They get beat on a 60-yard field goal. But again, no moral victories. You judged on what your record is. Who said that? You are what your record says you are. Bill Parcells, right?
Exactly. But coaching, Keith, makes all the difference. And Arthur Smith was the perfect quarterback for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
The Rodgers brought in his own guy, Paul Hackett. He maybe needed a guy like Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was so innovative with Aaron Rodgers. And they were going to Rodgers' strengths. And, a great game by Aaron Rodgers. Kudos. He shows he has a lot left. And Justin Fields did play a good game, but it's about closing games out in the NFL. As we saw last night in the Raven-Bill game. I don't care how well you play. You have to close a game out.
100%. And that's one thing, again, to go back to your analogy about the Patriots and Tom Brady. When he was there, one thing the Patriots did was they closed games out better than anybody.
Yeah.
Jets didn't do it. Ravens didn't do it. Maybe that's, again, I don't want to overreact about a lot of this stuff, but there are things to take away from yesterday. On the flip side of New York, that Brian Daboll already after one game says, we'll talk about who the quarterback is this week, later in the week.
Well, you know what it is? When they got Russell Wilson in the offseason, they made a firm commitment to him. He was going to be the starter. And this is before they drafted Jackson Dart. So you can't then draft Jackson Dart and go back on your word. You just can't say. You knew Russell Wilson was on the clock the moment they drafted Jackson Dart. But how much leeway can you give Russell Wilson? I mean, he played very poorly yesterday. Let's be honest about it. And it's not like he's coming off of a strong season with Pittsburgh. He was just so there.
Right.
And how many games do you give him? It's easy to say, well, you got to give him 5-6 games. But if you do, it could become a lost season. So do you go? I mean, if you think Jackson Dart is ready, do you give Russell Wilson one more game? Do you start him and then take him out? That's my prediction. What's going to happen? They start Russell Wilson this week, And if he gets off to a sluggish start, they go with Jackson Dart. But Keith, the danger with that is this. Once you go to Jackson Dart, there's no turning back. Because if you do turn back and then you bench Jackson Dart again, bench him for the first time and take a step back, it's like acknowledging he's not ready. And then you're going to Russell Wilson, back to him, or Jameis Winston. It's bad for the team. He loses his chance to be a real leader, to come in and build that momentum.
Yeah.
So if you're going to Jackson Dart, it's more so a question that you have to feel he's ready than Russell Wilson can't get the job done.
Listen, I agree with you 100%. I think there's a chance he starts. Your scenario is certainly doable, but the overall question, as you said, how much of the season you're going to just, punt away. The way Russell Wilson looked yesterday, there's no reason to continue to play him if that's going to be the norm or even close to the norm. If you're going to lose, you might as well lose with a kid and let him learn on the job. And personally, I think he gives him a better chance to win. We haven't seen him in real games, so that's a bit of a reach still, but you're not going to win games like this with Russell Wilson playing, that's for sure.
Well, there's also the theory that I have that you share, I believe, with me in large part, maybe not completely. For the most part, these young quarterbacks, they learn by playing. Jackson Dart holding a clipboard for Russell Wilson isn't going to help his development.
No.
So, if Russell Wilson is playing great, like in All-Pro, okay, he's going to win you some more games. So maybe it holds Jackson Dart off a while. And especially because they did make the commitment to Russell Wilson to be the starter. And you kind of got to keep your word to an extent, to the point where Russell Wilson will come up to you and say, you said I was going to be the starter, and you're pulling me after a week and a game and a half or whatever. I'm just speculating. But if you're the coach, you could then say, but I told you we have to get off to a quick start. You didn't play well in the first game. You could then throw it back at him.
I agreed. There was a little dust up with Dabo and Neighbors. You read much into that? What I noticed about that, they had a dust up. Those things happen, right? You guys get in each other's faces, coaches get in players' faces, coaches give something back. But afterwards, there was a little clip I saw last night that I hadn't seen, and maybe I saw it wrong. I don't know. But Dabo went up to him and tried to kind of like give him a high five or whatever, and I thought Neighbors just blew him right off and went back to the field. So again, maybe it was a Rogers Salah thing from a Salah thing from last year, if you remember, where it looked like Rogers blew him off. But I don't know. Do you think it's a big deal or not?
No, I think sometimes you read too much into things. The player could be upset that moment. The coach could be complimenting him in some way, in some form.
Yeah.
The player's competitive. He doesn't want to hear about it at that moment. Look, there was an incident yesterday with the Carolina Panthers. That's 4th and 5, and Bryce Young throws, and now near the goal line, and Bryce Young throws the ball out of the end zone. 4th and 5. What do you have to lose throwing it in the end zone?
Right.
And Dave Canales is kind of like patting him on the back, and Bryce Young slams his helmet, to the turf. And Canales says, no, it wasn't directed towards me. But that's a terrible look. Just the idea that the coach has to explain that, so he's not embarrassed.
Yeah.
You can't have those looks. You can't have a player doing anything that can embarrass his coach, his quarterback, etc. And these players have to be aware, the camera's going to be focused on them. But look, they're humans. Sometimes they're going to walk away in a huff. They're going to get to be extremely angry about things.
Yeah, I have no problem with the confrontation itself. Those things happen all the time in the NFL, and people do overreact. I saw it in New England forever with Tom Brady and coaches and players and everybody. And then it was done. I had more of an issue with, and again, I didn't have any real feel for how much time passed. The argument or conversation was over. And then Dabo went back to Neighbors, and it looked like he tried to give him a slap, and Neighbors kind of just went like, no, he kind of shrugged away from him. But again, it could be my own overreaction.
It could be, but also, I know coaches are human in this sense. If a player blows them off, even though the game is going on,
Yeah.
it's on their mind. So it might compromise them to a small extent, their involvement in the game mentally at that
Right.
moment. You know,
Right.
they might be a little annoyed, you know, like what's going on. And now they have an issue that they're going to have to address because they know it's out there for public consumption. But we're going to hear more about it. And Neighbors, I'm sure, is going to be diplomatic, but also keep this in mind. There are very few players on teams, okay? Maybe a handful who have a big degree of power that a coach can only discipline them, act towards them so much in a way. Malik Neighbors is that player on the Giants. I mean, Malik Neighbors is a great player, arguably position for position. You could say he's the best player on the Giants. You can make that argument if you want now. He was great as a rookie. Going forward, he's going to be a cornerstone receiver. He's going to get the big money when the time comes, unless the Giants somehow botch it up. And, you know, he expects more. You know, he had to be frustrated, you know, how Russell Wilson would be getting him the ball.
To our conversation, and Brian, and I know a couple of you Michigan guys had some comments about the Lions. I'll go back when we get to talking about the Lions. With the quarterback situation, the offensive line is not good. I mean, there is a rule of thumb that maybe you don't want to put in Jackson Dart to get the crap beat out of him if this offensive line is going to play that badly. I had the same argument last year when the Patriots played Drake May. I thought it was a mistake because of the bad offensive line. But he played pretty well despite those challenges last year. And I would, in retrospect, I would say I was wrong. So I think I'd still give Jackson Dart because he can move around a little bit too, I think, and he'd be fine.
You have to let him play because if he's struggling this year, chances are the offensive line might be similar next year.
Yeah.
Even if you upgrade it, there might be some injuries. Look at Elijah Vera Tucker went out with the Jets in the beginning of the year. The Jets were counting heavily on him for the offensive line. And play Jackson Dart and let him get the experience. If he's going to fail at times, so be it. Yeah, I'm like a fine wine, Danny, like the Jets. Yeah, not having a winning record since when, 2015? I mean, it seems like more the same.
We've got our buddy from UK back, Michael Gott, after some issues he's had sharing with comments on the show. We finally got him sharing again. He watched the Giants game. Again, not more count. They got to run the football. For the quarterback to be effective, you have to have some kind of running game, and they have nothing right now.
Well, Michael, write a letter to the Giant GM, Joe Shine, from what he said a year ago. They move on from Saquon Barkley. Well, I don't want to pay someone to just hand the ball off to them, to just run the ball, he says. How dismissive he was. If they had Saquon Barkley, they'd have a running game.
People think the running game's not important in the NFL because of the numbers they see in the passing games, but you still need to run the football. Even when, again, I'll go back to the Patriots' heyday. Even when they were throwing the ball and Tom Brady's throwing for 5,000 yards a year, they still ran the ball to close out games, as we talked about, if nothing else, and to set up the pass. So you got to be able to have a little something, or at least a danger of them being able to run the football. So what did Danny say here about this Giant game before we move off them? Even though it was the Giants, LOL, the Redskins looked good, solid. Debo already smiling until he gets hurt. He'll be smiling, but I thought the Redskins
Well, we'll know Thursday night, Keith. A real test for the Commanders is going to be when they go to Green Bay this Thursday night. You get the feeling, this is the feeling I got, that Green Bay's win over the Lions is something that they're going to build on very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You see Green Bay going on a big run in the beginning of the season, the first half of the season, because it just seemed to be aligned. Their defense was in sync, you know. This Micah Parsons deal, I think it's more than Micah Parsons on the field. I think it's maybe energized the team and the fan base, you know, as well. And I look for the Commanders to go into Green Bay and not win that game. I look for Green Bay to win that game. But if the Commanders could go into Green Bay and win Thursday night, it's wow, that's a statement that they might really, really be a strong team this year, not just a playoff team.
Yeah, very, and Michael Parsons, as you said, I mean, he didn't. I think he had limited snaps, but I thought he had an impact on the game. He had a sack and also some other pressures. So, again, somebody like that, he is a game changer when he is healthy and his game, and that can make all the difference. Again, I don't want to overreact, as Brian continues to say, and I do say myself. The Lions will still have a good season. It just, they're a little flat. Again, how many teams are going to be flat in week one when you don't play?
No, but it wasn't that. But that wasn't the case, Keith. I was going to mention it. I was praising you for the lesson I learned last year about you telling me about the way teams are off form the first few games. I saw good quality football yesterday. I'm sorry. Good quality, much better than a year ago. And my picks, I came up with some crazy predictions because I thought to myself, the way Keith explained it and the way it worked out last year, things will not go according to form. They won't. You're going to get some crazy upsets. You're going to get this and that. We didn't. The bad teams were bad, and some of them regressed. Some of them teased us at the end of last year, like the Carolina Panthers. We thought, oh, the Panthers are ready to take a jump up. Not make the playoffs, but go maybe 8 and 9. Bryce Young is improving. He's going to be a franchise quarterback after all. Yesterday was ugly. If I'm a Panther fan, wow, I know, and I don't mean this as a dig for Sonia. You might be talking about a terrible year where they really do have to move on from Bryce Young for good this time. If yesterday's an indication, now it's one game.
One game.
You got to give him an opportunity over a number of games. I get that. And please don't go to Andy Dalton no matter what. There's no future with Andy Dalton as the Panther quarterback. But certain of the teams we don't know about, like the Indianapolis Colts. We know the Dolphins are bad. I thought they could upset the Colts yesterday, but I thought the Dolphins were going to finish last in their division. But the Dolphins are terrible. I thought they're just bad. And on the sideline, Tyreek Hill is having a hissy fit and stuff like that. It's ugly.
Mike McDaniels lost that team in my mind, and he's lost. He doesn't know what to do. He pretty much said after the game that he's lost. He doesn't have a clue how to fix this thing. And again, about overreactions, we know where we felt. I think all of us felt the Dolphins were in trouble. So Daniel Jones, I think he can have a resurgence in Indianapolis. I've said that. Should we he had a really good day yesterday. How much should we discount the fact that it's a really messed up Miami team that he did it against yesterday?
Well, you have to look at this, Keith, a certain way. Has a quarterback, any position player, have they had at least one good year? If they've had one good year, it means they can have other good years. Daniel Jones has had a number of poor years, but he did have that one good year. And they won a playoff game, against the Vikings. So he's competent and capable of having it. Whether he's your long-term answer, that's extremely questionable. If you get all the right pieces around him and, and you get your running game with Jonathan Taylor, the Colts, perhaps he can be your quarterback going forward.
Yeah.
But again, it's one game. Let's see him do it against a higher level team and over a number of games.
And I'm gonna have to circle back to a couple of these comments. So let's a great game last night. If you like offense, 41-40. The Bills get out quickly, but the Ravens have a 14 point lead, right, with 4 minutes left. And the Bills come back and score 15 in 4 minutes.
Yes, 16.
Is there somebody to blame here? I think it's just a good football team. Two good football teams. The defenses both have a long ways to go. Obviously, you saw some exciting offensive football, I think, on both sides here. This is two good football teams, and I don't know if there's anybody to blame, really.
No, it's a great game. The implications of this, Keith, that it might come down to home field advantage. But if they do play the AFC Championship game in Buffalo, the Ravens are capable of winning there.
Oh, of course.
Okay, they are capable, just like the Bills are capable of winning in Baltimore, but it does give you a little edge. I mean, it's not unimportant, okay? It's not unimportant. It carries a degree of importance. And this game could conceivably come back to haunt the Ravens if they and Buffalo have the same exact record and they meet during the playoffs. And if they do meet, it's probably going to be in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think this is the week 1 game that might be the most important win or loss, only because of it deciding home field advantage later on for sure. Any thoughts on in this game? There was an incident with a fan. And I have two thoughts on this. If people didn't see it, Lamar Jackson had pushing a fan, but that fan, who appeared to be a Buffalo fan, had tapped him. It was after a touchdown, I believe, in the end zone, right? Tapped him and the other Baltimore player on the top of the helmets. 2 things. I say this all the time. When you're a fan, it doesn't give you the right to do anything you want to do in the stadium. You don't touch players. You don't spit on them. You don't throw food at them. You can boo. You don't throw racial epithets at them. You're part of the game. You're watching the game. You're not part of the game. So the fan has got an issue there, but I also have one issue with Lamar Jackson. He's got to turn to walk away. You cannot put your hand.
If it happens so quick, you don't have a chance to analyze the situation.
You got to be smarter. You got
to wait. It looked to me like the fan shoved Lamar Jackson, gave him a hard shove.
He banged him on the helmet.
Okay, but it didn't look like a love tap. It
wasn't
like a Raven
fan. It was.
It wasn't like a Raven fan saying nice going. It wasn't even like a Bill fan who just wanted to touch a player in a harmless way, as he went by. He made the type of physical contact that was, I don't want to use the word hateful, but, it was wrong, flat out. He violated Lamar Jackson. He violated him. Like, what are you putting hands on me? And he did it in an unfriendly way. And Lamar Jackson had every darn right.
Wrong.
Shove the guy. Get off me.
No, I don't agree.
Put your hands on me. Get off me. You have no right to put your hands on me. Who the heck do you think you are?
A bigger person walks away. The fan is 100% wrong. Don't get me wrong. I've said for years I've gone off about fan behavior at games, and it's it's kind of a microcosm of our society in general today, the way fans act at ball games. We don't have a respect for one another. But the players have got to not do this. You start doing that, you're going to put another malice in the palace situation. And those are ugly things that can't happen in sports. Can't.
The fan reached over to Lamar
I
Jackson.
understand.
Reached over and shoved him the way it looked to me. And the fan was ejected from the stadium.
He was removed, yes.
And the fan should be removed from the stadium.
And he was removed, correct.
And do I want a lifetime ban with that fan? Maybe the Bills should look into it. You put your hands on the player.
I'm fine with that.
And you look, Lamar Jackson was walking away. What are we talking about? He was in motion. Lamar Jackson wasn't standing still. He was moving, and the fan reached out and shoved him, and Lamar Jackson shoved him back and continued to move.
Both sides are 100% at fault here. Both people.
Lamar, there should be no action taken against him.
I'm not saying there should be action taken against him. I think
Lamar said he should walk away. Had Lamar Jackson known what was going to happen, and it then happened, he would have walked away. My point is, these things happen so spontaneously in a split second. You act instinctively when it happens. And Lamar Jackson acted instinctively and understandably so. Understandably so. But Lamar Jackson admits, I just should have walked. I wish I'd walked away, but it happened so quick. But the fan had more chance to analyze, and what the fan did was pretty much rude. And the fan was doing it in kind of a condescending way towards Lamar Jackson. If it was a Raven fan who just gave him a little shove, like a nice going shove, and Lamar Jackson looked and was a Raven fan, and he saw it was a Raven fan, he may have looked and maybe smiled that moment and continued on.
You just said it happened so fast that he just reacted. How would he know what fan it was if he just...
Well, if he saw the Raven gear, whatever. Listen, fans jump into these stands, okay, for their team or whatever, and they're hugged by the fans, the Lambeau leap and all that. I mean, they like to interact with fans when they have a success. They're fans.
That's different. That's different, though. Anyway, what else, guys? I know you got some comments about some of the games we already talked about. I am going to try to go back and hit them a little bit, but I want to make sure that we get our Jack's feeling. Any other stuff that stood out to you yesterday? I really, there was a lot of Rams played well. We talked about the Packers already. Is there anything else you want to dive into that really?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about windows closing, and I was very disappointed in the Detroit Lions. I think losing, the offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, the defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, that might be a bigger hit than people think, because let's take a look at what happened to the Philadelphia Eagles in between their two Super Bowl appearances. They lost both the offensive and defensive coordinators, and they weren't quite the same team. And I don't want to say the Lions' window is closed, but it's really close to being closed based on yesterday's performance. Because with all the good teams in the NFC, are they really going to pick it up? Maybe by the end of the season, they get into the playoffs. I'm not discounting their chances of winning the division still, but maybe they get in as a wild card and they play great during the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. But I get the feeling this year it might be more of a struggle for the Lions than people anticipate, in large part because they have a really tough schedule, and they didn't play well yesterday.
That's one game.
Well. They went on sync on offense.
And you don't see that as an overreaction to that one game for the Lions, who are very good.
They're very good, but the manner and how they lost a game like this, I'm just not.
It wasn't as close as
I mean, Green Bay clearly looked like the better team. You could say it's one game.
Yeah,
we'll see going forward, but. At what point are you going to really be worried? If the Lions are 3-4, you're going to be worried. Now, it's how you're playing at the end of the season. You got to get to the playoffs. And if you're playing really well going into the playoffs, these earlier games are relevant to a degree. Look, last year the Kansas City Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, but they were struggling all season despite being 15-1 until they threw a game away against Denver at the end of the year to be 15-2. We kept hearing, you're winning.
Yeah.
Don't be concerned, you're winning. But it caught up to them in the Super Bowl. It caught up to them that they weren't that good when they played, once they won the Super Bowl.
I agree. And Brian's right that the Eagles lost both coordinators last year but won a Super Bowl. So, again, that's not always the case. But it's not easy to, have a new guy in there. I thought did they promote from within? They did, I believe. But still. I'm going to have Brian snip this out of the show so we can play it, around week 15 when they're, leading the division.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday my picks, I was embarrassed trying to pick all these crazy upsets. I want to forget my picks because I listened to you, Keith, picking all these crazy upsets. You messed me up bad. I'm like a player who's brushing you off. You're patting me on the back.
Nobody
like big neighbors. You're Brian DeBall. Next week, I'm going to be on top of my game.
Don't rationalize your lack of success by saying you listen to me. Danny Fuller will tell you, don't ever listen to me. I only had 10 wins yesterday.
Oh, by the way, there were other sports going very quickly. Congratulations to Carlos Alcaraz for winning the U.S. Open. I don't understand, Keith, why these sports bump into one another. Like we were talking about Saturday night was the Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Hardly anyone knew what was going on. I happened to be.
You're the only one.
I forgot, Keith. I was channel scanning the college games, and I came across it, and I watched it because to me it's important. The inductions, lots of nice speeches.
Yeah.
So I elected to pick that over the college football games. It's a hard choice to make, you know. But yesterday I didn't watch the tennis, the U.S. Open finals, because I elected to watch football. I can't do what you do, Keith, watch 6 things at once. I got to give my full
I had trouble with it yesterday.
to one game. And when there's a break, I turn to something else, another game.
Well, I think the U.S. Open has been played the same, time for decades, if not longer. So
it's 2:00 yesterday.
Yeah, they're always going to run into
a little
the
after
NFL.
2. So it was going on while the Jet and Giant game was going on.
Yeah, the final always runs into the NFL, always. So
yeah.
But congratulations to him. I think that's his 6th Grand Slam, which I didn't know he'd won that many Grand Slams.
Carlos Alcaraz, he's young. He's going to win a number more.
Yeah.
So will he get up to Djokovic's 24 Grand Slams, which is the male record? It's possible because you have 4 Grand Slams a year. So you could kind of, so if you're playing well for 7-8 years at the top of your game, it starts kind of piling up. Yeah, speaking of Djokovic, he made it to the semifinals.
Yeah.
Lost in straight sets. He made it to 3 semis this year out of the 4 majors, but he lost in straight sets in each semi. The problem is he's like one of these teams that's no longer powerhouse, still good, could still make the playoffs, but is no longer quite a championship team. And I'm thinking of the Kansas City Chiefs in that regard. They'll be in the playoffs, but they, I think
another overreaction.
Or the Golden State Warriors, teams like that are still good. But it shows you how hard it is to win one championship. But they kind of spoil us by winning a few.
Yeah. Well, just to finish up the tennis, I think Alcaraz and Sinner seem to be at the top of the heap right now because they played in the last 3 Grand Slam finals. They played each other. So 3 of the 4 this year. Great job for them.
Sinner, right? That Jimmy Connors was in the crowd. But I don't think we're ever going to get a fun rivalry like McEnroe and Connors, because those are personalities.
Connors
no one could light up the U.S. Open crowd the way Jimmy Connors could. I mean, he just loved playing in front of the people. That's a topic. Wow, you keep reminding me for these debate questions. I have to write them down. Of all the athletes in sports history, which one enjoyed playing in front of a crowd the most? The most. That's a great question, and I can't think of anyone more than Jimmy Connors.
I would say Connors off the top of my head. Yeah,
he loved playing in front of the people.
Well,
wow.
Who fed off energy of the crowd more than Jimmy Connors? I mean, he was just
the crowd fed off Connors' energy.
That was true. That's a great point. Point. Let me get some of these comments from somebody. We already talked about these games, but we were moving around and they were kind of backed up. Let's back up a little bit on the games yesterday. Casual, take the pail out of there. Casual people want to blame coaching. He's talking about the Lions game, I think, yesterday. Look, it's a combination. When your team isn't good, there's a combination of bad coaching and bad playing. I mean, it's hard to blame one person for a loss. Russell Wilson was bad, for instance, for the Giants, but I don't know if the coaching was all that good either, because who's playing quarterback? They're making the decisions about who's playing and the plays are getting called. So coaches are always going to get blamed.
Stop it, Keith. This isn't baseball where you make the right move and put in your closer and he blows the game. We don't blame the manager. In football, yeah. Coaches got to get the blame like they get the credit. Brian Daboll went out and he got Russell Wilson. He had faith in Russell Wilson. Brian Daboll is this great quarterback guru. Well, he didn't improve Russell Wilson. That was his guy who he got for this season. Someone's got to get the blame as well. Don't dismiss the coach. I mean,
I didn't. Jeremy did.
Russell Wilson.
I always blame the coach. You know me. Coaches, at the end of the day, the coach is the guy who's going to get the blame. That's what he's getting paid for. That's what his job is, to make sure guys execute. If they don't execute, they haven't been coached up right, or get rid of the guys, one or the other. So it is coaches. You know me. I think you're talking to the comment, not me, because you know me and coaches. I don't get along with a lot of them. Daniel Jones, again, we take much away from that. I thought Daniel Jones looked better and Fields do too, but again, I don't know whether to take away the teams they're playing against, the defense they're playing against, and it's week 1. If we're gonna get on Russell Wilson for playing horribly, we have to give kudos to Fields and Jones for playing well, I think.
The jury's still out on Daniel Jones. Miami has a good front 7. They didn't particularly show up yesterday. Jones did a good job. I don't want to say anything negative about him. Good game by Daniel Jones, but it is only one game there. Let's see the following games with Indianapolis, what's going on. Justin Fields was going against a good defense, played a good game all in all, but it's about closing games and what happened at the end of the game.
Yeah.
That's had a chance of getting field goal range. Pittsburgh's defense, clamped them down, and some hit by Jalen Ramsey on Garrett Wilson the last play of the game.
For sure.
To secure the win.
Rick talks about Rodgers, and we all hate Rodgers apparently, but he thought he was fun. He did have an interesting comment. They tried to really get him to talk about Glenn after the Aaron Glenn and the way he got cut. They made him fly into town.
It was classless. It was classless. Yeah. They had a Zoom meeting with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Either fly out to see him.
That wasn't a Zoom meeting.
Don't make him fly out. The way Aaron Rodgers says, I flew out on my own dime. But don't fly him across country to sit in the office and 20 seconds into your meeting say we're going to move on.
Yeah, you could have done that on a phone call.
Yeah, you could have done it in a Zoom meeting or 100%. Something like that. Yeah, absolutely, if you were sure you were going to move on.
The other meeting that could have been an email. I lived those for my whole life.
Right. Something also before the game, a number of players were coming over greeting Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't toxic in the Jet locker room the way people made it out to be. I think that's an overkill on public perception. He really wasn't toxic. What hurt Rodgers' stay in New York, Jets didn't close out games. He would give them a lead late in games, and the defense didn't come through, or Rodgers didn't come through. It was a combination, an inability of the Jets to close games last year. They were 5-12. If they closed a few more of those games, they would have been like 9-8. And maybe Rodgers is there this year. And maybe Aaron Glenn isn't even the coach this year had they closed out those games.
Anthony talks, we go back to Jackson Dart a little bit. We both think they're going to be turning to him sooner than later.
No, Anthony.
I do think he needs to do a job.
Is the GM. Joe Shine is the GM. He's very close with Brian DeBall. And they will not fire Brian DeBall if Joe Shine has a say. It would have to be ownership.
So both fired.
Not to get involved. Brian DeBall's future, if the Jets have a poor record, hinges on how Jackson Dart plays once he gets in. If Jackson Dart shows a lot of potential, and the Giants are playing well at the end of the year, they could go 6-11 again. But if they're playing well at the end of the year and Jackson Dart looks like he's absolutely their future QB, Brian DeBall is there again next year.
Well, there's a danger. And by the way, DeBall and Shine are going together whenever they go. They're going together. To me, that's a given. There's no way.
I think so.
With what happened with Barkley. And this is why my comment's going to be, yes, I think Dart should play. But there is a calculated danger for them playing him too early. If he looks atrocious and he's not the quarterback of the future, they're both going to get fired after the Barkley deal last year, and then you take Dart now. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's the real deal. But if you play him and he looks bad, you both may end up on the chopping block here. By the way, I have a hard time. Do you have this same problem with hearing all about all the pressure on these guys? These guys are making millions of dollars. If Brian Daboll gets fired, I don't think he's going to be on the food line tomorrow. What's the pressure these guys are under? I mean, They want to win games. I get it. But when you're falling back on millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars in some cases, I don't understand. They don't have the same pressure people have in everyday life of trying to keep their jobs. I hate that.
Oh, no. I agree with you 100%. They could live a great life, millions of dollars. Why do they even need to get into coaching? What I hate, Keith, and I'm kind of be a little critical of you in this, you and others.
You do that a lot. It's fine.
And most people agree with you. I hate it. If a guy has 1 year left on his contract, I don't want to hear that he's a lame duck. Oh, you have to extend them. Let him. He's under contract for the year. If the coach has a great year, coach and manager, they become a free agent. They could go to the highest bidder. They'll easily resign with their team. They'll get a better deal. I don't want to hear with 1 year left, you've got to resign anyone who could become a free agent. I just don't. But listen, Aaron Glenn's situation's different from Brian DeBoer. The Jets could have a poor year, and he's still going to be there. You know what's interesting? The Jets were penalized at the end of the first half yesterday because they were fighting and this and that. A flag was thrown. And Aaron Glenn is interviewed at the half saying, the players have to learn not to do that. We could have been in field goal range. So what happens in the second half? The players start scuffling again. So much for the lesson Aaron Glenn is telling them. The shoving is going back and forth.
Yeah, I know. Listen, but your lame duck comment, you also gave another good argument. You should never have a lame duck. Two things can go badly, and you named one that I hadn't even really thought about. First of all, the players quit on him because once things start going badly, they know he's not coming back, so I don't care. But you gave a great argument about another reason not to leave him as a lame duck, because if they have a great season, you're either going to have to pay him a boatload more money or you're going to be starting over with a new coach.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You might have to pay more money as an organization.
Or you lose him.
But then no one is a lame duck for 1 year. No one is a lame duck. The players are playing hard regardless. They're playing for contracts. I mean, it's just the way it is. I meant to ask you, your New England Patriots, was I right about them or not?
No, there's no dissension.
Are you concerned with Drake May's development? He made some poor throws yesterday.
He made some poor throws. The offensive line was atrocious again. He was under duress way too often. They couldn't run the football. Again, you got to be able to run the football. Couldn't run the football. He made some bad decisions, threw a bad interception that gave him a short field, and they scored their second touchdown, the Raiders. And he turned the ball over twice on a fumble and an interception, and you can't do that. He's got to protect the football. And Vrabel's going to be all over that because he's a lot like Belichick in the fact that you have to protect the football. And I don't think there's dissension. There's still some personnel problems there, though. I mean, again, I'm not giving up on this season, but I will tell you this, and we were talking about it before you had gotten in. This is a game, if they're going to be a 9-8 team, like I say, 9-8-ish, and be on the cusp of a playoff position, you got to beat the Raiders at home in this game. You have to.
Well, I thought they'd be like a 6-11 team, but
it's fine.
There's this thing that I would be concerned about. Grable might be to Drake May what Belichick was to Mac Jones. And if that happens, it's going to be messy. But
big difference, though. Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, not Matt Patricia.
But May was drafted so high, he's going to have a lot of rope. I know Mac Jones is drafted 15th overall, but he wasn't given as much rope as Drake May is going to be given. But there's going to come a point where the Patriots are going to have to make a decision. Maybe even in the offseason, is Drake May really our guy?
I don't disagree. After year two, that's why this is a critical year for any quarterback. Year two is huge. And that's why I always talk about how the Patriots really screwed over Mac Jones. In his second year, he had no chance to develop from where he was with the situation they put him in. This is a big difference. If he doesn't develop under Josh McDaniel, he's not going to develop into what they want him to be. So we got 16 more games for him to develop and get better, but they also have to protect him better. And again, I think the weapons are okay. Booty had a really good game yesterday for the offense, especially as bad as they were. But they got nothing out of Henderson. How many times? He's a great weapon. Travion Henderson's a great weapon. They keep throwing a ball out to him in the flat. There's nobody out there to block. He's out there with 4 guys ready to tackle him. What's the point of that? I mean, I expect more out of Josh McDaniel as well, to go back to the coaching aspect of this. Again, part of this falls on the coaches. So, yeah, that's my take there. How about tonight's game, Jack? Vikings and who we got? Vikings and Bears. This is kind of an interesting game as well. Another, not a rookie quarterback, but he did miss his whole rookie year being injured in McCarthy. And a second year, hopefully developing quarterback for the Bears in Williams. So what do you like about this game?
I mean, new starts for both quarterbacks, even though they're in their second year.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy with Minnesota, Caleb Williams, under Ben Johnson. I mean, it's going to be very interesting, both quarterbacks tonight. The Bears, I think, are ready to take a step forward and at least contend for playoff position. Can the Vikings be nearly as good as they were last year? I kind of doubt it, but all eyes are going to be on J.J. McCarthy. But he certainly has the weapons, J.J. McCarthy, to succeed. And with the Bears, they have the weapons as well. And it's going to be a good game. I like the Bears tonight.
I did take the Bears tonight myself, so we'll see how that works out. If you've got a couple minutes, I know you came in late. There's a couple things I wanted to touch on outside the world of football. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, at least while I was on the show.
Karen.
Well, I want to talk about that, but first I want to talk about Davy Johnson passing away. Davy Johnson, very underrated manager, did a great job with the Mets. I think the thing about Davy was the thing that was his strength, although it was the thing that cost him his job, is he didn't care what the players did as long as they came to work ready to play and win. And that kind of got out of hand at the end. But Davy Johnson was a perfect guy for the Mets at the perfect time. And I don't think this guy gets enough credit for that 86 World Series victory and what was a great team and might have, again, what could have been. It looked like they were going to win 4 or 5 and they win 1.
I'm guilty of this as well, not giving Davy Johnson the credit he deserved, because my naked eye test watching Davy Johnson's career, I didn't realize he was as accomplished as he was. And I was very familiar with Davy Johnson. Look, when he was with the Baltimore Orioles, a 2-time World Series champion, he's a second baseman in 1966, 1970. Yeah. People don't realize with the Miracle Mets when they won the World Series in 1969, Davy Johnson made the last out. He nearly hit a game-tying homer that Cleon Jones caught on the edge of the warning track.
Yep.
As the second baseman for Atlanta, I believe he set a record for home runs for second baseman
at the time.
44.
At the time,
he set a home run record. Manager, the Mets winning the World Series, gold medal winning manager in the Olympics. He took over other teams and elevated them.
Everyone.
Every team he elevated because his personality was so easygoing. Yeah. We never thought of him as being a strategist, but the guy did nothing but win.
But he
should be in the Hall of Fame when you look at his credentials.
It was his tenure with teams. It's funny because he's got a totally different personality than Billy Martin, but he had a similar type of run, right? Every place he'd go, he'd turn him around, but then he'd end up getting fired when all he did was win. Basically, I mean, I never could understand some of the jobs he lost. And by the way, that season in Atlanta, his first year there, he hit 43 home runs. They were the first team ever to have 3 guys hit 40 home runs in the season. That was one of the fluke seasons of all time, non-steroid related, because there was no steroids in 1973. It was one of the great fluke seasons in my mind in baseball history. Davy Johnson's 43 home runs that year. So, but a great baseball man, no matter what you want to say.
But I think his legacy, Keith, with all he's done, and he's done a tremendous amount, is tied to the 1986 Mets. Him being their manager, them winning the World Series. I think that's what people think about when Davy Johnson's name comes up.
Agreed. And let's jump to Karen, because we still don't know. I've looked everywhere. She's 3 times been identified as the wrong person. So I still don't know who Karen is. She hasn't lost her job, as we were talking about yesterday.
He hasn't. Good. She
It was
should
the wrong
lose her job. Look, let's not destroy. The only way I wouldn't have sympathy for her, or
None.
if she lost her job, is this. After she had the incident with the father, I'm not sure whether these tapes were doctored, because a lot of times they're doctored.
Yeah.
If she walked over to other people and got in their face, and if she held the ball up and basically said, bleep you to everyone, and she carried on, and then if there's been other incidents as well, then I can understand her employer, firing her, wanting nothing to do with her. Look, I had an incident at a football game, Keith, a couple of years ago at Miami Dolphin game. I had to go to the men's room. I'm coming back from halftime, and this woman doesn't want to let me go to my seat. She's giving me a hard time. I'm going, ma'am, I had to go to the bathroom. I'm being very nice and polite. I was about to walk the other way and take the long way just to diffuse the situation. She finally relented, but people were looking on and they were observing this. This could have gotten on YouTube and gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
And, and I understand the dad diffusing it, giving her the ball. I don't want to judge her on one bad incident, okay? But, in Pylon, she suffered enough, I think.
She's an idiot. And no, I don't know.
She's an idiot that suffered. And she did an idiotic thing. And she suffered enough for
And
her.
the dad obviously gave her the ball just because he was like, because you could see him just go, fine, take the freaking ball and get out of my face. So, right?
Yeah, he had to diffuse the situation. Because she may have grabbed the ball from the kid. Imagine the dad didn't give her the ball and she grabbed it off the kid and the dad wouldn't put hands on her. You know how much worse that would be? The dad did her a favor by handing her the ball at that
100%.
Because I think she was going to grab the darn ball.
I think she probably would have. And, by the way, just because he was 2 sections away or wherever the hell he was, it doesn't matter. That ball's free for anybody.
I went to Miami Marlin game, early in the season. And Keith, I was sitting right behind first base where they would always flip the ball over the first baseman and the coaches between innings. There was a mad scramble. I remember reaching up for the ball with my seat. I reached out. They nearly knocked my hands off the crowd, but it's fair game.
It is.
The only thing that's not fair game, once you have possession of the ball in your hand, no one can grab it out of your hand. That's theft at that point.
There was a similar incident to that a couple of days ago that I saw go viral as well. Somebody took it out of an old guy's hands, and just stop. Don't do stuff like that.
Remember Roger Maris's 61st home run?
Yeah. Well,
the fan that got the ball is holding it up in the air. Can you imagine a fan did that today? They'd snatch it out of his hand at this point.
Sure they would. The other side of this whole Karen thing is the dangers of social media are like beyond bad, because this woman's been identified as the wrong person at least 3 times that I'm aware of. That's why people thought she got fired. They identified her as a New York teacher, a New Jersey, whoever it was, and said she got fired. She goes, I'm a Red Sox fan. The woman went on social media and said, that's not me.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have wrong ideas. I remember there was a bank robber who was on the front page of a newspaper. The guy didn't rob the bank. He's leaving an ATM thing. But I don't want to see, look, Philly Karen did something. She suffered enough. I don't want her to lose her job. I want to be able to move on from this. I think she suffered enough ridicule with this. And she might even be a nice person who had a bad moment. It could happen to anyone. A quick poor interaction.
It could happen to anyone.
Look, you know what happened yesterday, Keith? You know what happened yesterday? I went to pick up something for dinner for myself and my wife, and there was a parking spot. So I set the parallel park, and someone scooted in right behind me and took my spot that I was there first. And I just looked back and stared at them. Can you imagine I got out of the car and I said, that's my spot. What are you doing? And imagine they had in kids, a little old lady, and I'm alone. The way people would get on me. Oh, now they had to move to another spot and the little old lady had to walk and the kid. I was there first. It really was my spot. I looked back at her and my attitude was like, really, lady, this was my spot. Why are you doing this? And then I took off and I made a U-turn and I found another spot.
Well, there
But,
you go.
I moved on from it at least. But
You said a number of times that this could happen to anybody. I guarantee it wouldn't happen to me. And I got a feeling it wouldn't happen to you. So it couldn't happen.
No, I wouldn't.
You have to be predisposed to that type of behavior for that to happen to you in a ballpark. You just have to be. I'm sorry.
But if the ball was in my hands and it was grabbed directly out of my hand,
That's a different
it's
situation.
possible. Yeah, I would walk over the bat and say, "Look, you took it out of my hand. What are you doing?" And then he said, "Well, it's for my kid." And I'll say, "Well, I have grandkids who I'd want to give it to."
Yeah.
But it wasn't in her hand.
No, I'm not.
I thought because the ball was by her seat.
I can't.
She felt a feeling of entitlement with that. But she's went to enough games where she should know better. A foul ball is there for anyone to take.
Right. Well, anyway, she got her 15 minutes of infamy. So.
Well, a bad infamy. I feel for her, believe it or not, unless she genuinely is not the nicest person, then who cares? But if she's a good person, and I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt, who had a bad moment, I'm actually sympathetic for her. Enough's enough. We're talking about this, but let's kind of move on from this.
This will be the last time I talk about it.
And leave her alone. I mean, I think she suffered enough, with this.
Unless I find more evidence on her, I'm done talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, she suffered enough. I mean,
real quick before we wrap it up, our college football picks from last week. You were 2-1. Good job. I was actually 3-1 with our new rule about double-digit underdogs winning. You get 2 points with South Florida beating Florida. So for the season, we're both 6-4.
I missed the Kentucky game, right? I think that's the one.
No, you won by half a point.
Oh, okay.
So the only game you lost was where's my I don't know where I had it in front of me here, Jack. Hang on one second. See if I can find it. You had, come on. Jesus, I can't remember you had now.
Did I? Wait,
you lost on Clemson. I know you lost on Clemson. You won on Illinois. That's it. Illinois, Clemson, and Kentucky. So Kentucky covers by half a point.
I thought you were going to say that you won by taking Ohio State and giving 61 points.
I won on Alabama giving 38 or something. They won 73
nothing. Yeah.
So that one, and I lost on Navy. Navy was
Monroe. What was Monroe doing in the spotlight? They had to be happy to be on the spotlight. But I feel for those kids.
$1 million
during that butt whipping, during the game. I feel for the players. In one sense, the kids at Monroe are excited. We're playing Alabama. We're in the big time. And then to lose the way they did,
They go play 2 of these games against big schools a year, get $3 million, and it's like 15% of their entire revenue for the football team. There wouldn't be a football team if they didn't play these games and get their asses kicked.
And they can always say, the kids there, I played against the University of Alabama, so they have a badge of honor once they graduate. They can talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think these kids are feeling humiliated. I think they're happy to be on the same field with the Alabama Crimson Tide. That's what I think.
Yeah. I kind of feel that way.
So good stuff. Sorry about the delay, but we did good once you got here, Jack. Good job. And we got Glove Fist tonight.
Oh, we have a special guest. Former world champ Paulie Malignaggi is going to join Frank Laterzo and myself. We're going to preview the upcoming Canelo Alvarez Terrence Crawford fight, which is this Saturday night, and we're going to talk about that fight a little bit, of course, also on our show Monday, because the result would have been in.
Very good.
Tune into Glove Fist 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the best in boxing. Frank Laterzo, myself, but be forewarned. Frank is going to want to vent for a couple of minutes about his Miami Dolphins at the beginning of the show. So,
and
endure that.
There is that. Frank's a good guy. I like the way Frank vents, actually. So,
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And I'll see. Listen, guys, I'll be at the college football huddle a day early this week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. because I'm going away, and I'll have some news on Friday's show. I got to talk to Jack as soon as we sign off here. So, guys, have a great day. We'll see you very soon. See you later. Bye bye.